Hi, I just want to give a quick run through of the presentation that I gave at the Pangborn conference in August this year. What I concentrated on in this was mobile phones and how you can use those to bring consumer behaviour to life, really. I'll do the presentation in a very similar format to what I did at Pangborn. I obviously haven't got an audience now, I'm talking into a microphone, so it's never quite as effective, but hopefully you'll get the general flavour of it as we work through. So what I want to provide is a really practical overview of mobile research, and when I talk about that, what I'm talking about are things like mobile surveys, data collected via apps, SMS text surveys, and increasingly in-app as a way of collecting information, which I'll touch on briefly when we get to the applications later on. I am conscious that there's nothing new necessarily about mobile research, but what's absolutely apparent as I talk to people and you read surveys and things is the uptake of it is relatively low at the moment. The recent Grit survey suggested about 40% of clients were using it, so there's huge latent potential out there even for the basic elements before we get onto some of the more complex things that we will be able to achieve via mobile in the future. We're obviously in a world where we're squeezed on cost and time. I know that, we see that all the time through our clients and through the types of things that we're having to do as an agency. But this is actually one of those areas where I think instead of looking at this as a way of stripping time out of a situation, we have to look at mobile as an opportunity to collect better data. It allows us to get closer to the consumer, to be more accurate, to be richer. And it's definitely on that area that I think we really must focus on. We have to view mobile as a new tool in our toolkit rather than a replacement for things that already exist. If we can do that, then we'll find the benefits, and that's when we'll really start to gain the advantages. And another reason for concentrating on this topic now is that I genuinely think that consumers are way ahead of where we are as an industry in terms of our use of it. It really struck me on a recent tour of some of the office locations at MMR just how all-pervasive the use of mobile phones is now, and that's demonstrated perfectly when you look at people on public transport. Here in London, you've got at least 2/3 of people on that carriage are on a mobile device. It's no different in Shanghai, virtually everybody there. New York, you've got these four guys sat next door to each other, almost as if they don't exist. They're all on their mobiles or their tablets. Exactly the same in Singapore. And even in Mumbai, where this fella can't even get on the train, he still finds a way of making his mobile work for him. I think, we're going to get $50 smartphones soon. The promise of that's there. That's going to open up, a huge population of the world for us to go and talk to from a research capacity. And I think one of the messages that I'd like to get across is probably, as an industry now, we need to stop worrying quite so much about whether we can get a truly representative sample for mobile research. In most FMCG type situations, the majority of people who are buying the brands will have a mobile in most parts of the world, and we should just be getting out there and making the most of the opportunities that it gives us, rather than worrying about the problems as much as we possibly do as an industry. Despite all my positivity, having been an early adopter of this at MMR, there's one rule that I think really does stand out, and that's that there isn't a perfect technical solution to this. All the different providers will come and tell you that theirs can do absolutely everything you need. I'm pretty sure they don't. So, in English we have a saying, kiss a few frogs to find a prince, and that really does apply here. I suggest you get out there, you look at what's available, you find what can work for you, choose something, stick with it, develop it, make the most of it. At MMR we were quite fortunate in that we teamed up with Naveen Williams here, who runs an app development company out in Shanghai. A real pioneer in this area. I'm fortunate enough to be able to say that he wrote the book on the subject, because he did. I also promised him a plug, so there it is, available on Amazon. You can go and download that. It is worth a read. And if you're an agency as well and you're looking for a partner, I'd certainly suggest that Naveen's on your list of people to talk to. Now, one of the areas that we're interested in at MMR, along with most other research agencies, is the whole how do you ask questions situation, or do you ask them at all? So the system one, the implicit kind of debate that's raging at the moment, a really interesting topic and one that's worthy of all the coverage it's getting. But what I'm equally interested in, though, and it tends to be the slightly poor relation, if you like, is actually when you ask the questions. And I think this is the huge opportunity that we get with mobile, to talk to people as things actually happen. By doing that, we have the massive benefit of moving beyond recall, which we all know is somewhat flawed, towards actually capturing behaviour in the moment, and that for me is absolute key. So whilst my topic at the start of this presentation was about mobile phones, that's a little bit misleading really. It's really about this in the moment kind of thing, because that, I believe, is where the huge opportunities are, and I can illustrate that just with a couple of simple things on the next chart. Here we see a couple of fairly typical product testing situations. So a lady coming out of the shower, how well did the shampoo perform? The guy at the gym, how's the deodorant doing? Now, typically in most research, if it was online or a paper questionnaire, they would fill this out sometime after the event. So after they've got dried, after they've got dressed in the gym, etc. At best, maybe even later in the day. But if you can get an app onto their phones, they can do that the minute he comes out of the gym. He can be doing that survey, or if you've got waterproof technology, she can even be doing it in the shower. These things are possible. You get much better in the moment data by doing it that way. And even with relatively simple kind of product testing situations, testing liquids, testing breakfast cereal or whatever, typically that will be done in front of the computer if it's an online survey, but it'll be done at a point when they're sat down in front of their computer. If you can get it with an app, they can be filling that out as they use the product in a much more natural way throughout the day, so that the accuracy of that has to be better. And again, when we're asking for people to recall things, as in the next example I'm going to show you, we know that quite often they'll get that wrong, not because they're lying to us or trying to be malicious, but we just don't remember everything in an accurate way. It's a coping mechanism. There's too much going on in life to do that. And in this example, it's actually a few years old now, we did an online survey. We asked people what cereals they had in their cupboard at home, and we found that on average they said about 5 packs and about 1 in 5 were own label. We did a match sample of people. We asked them just to take a photograph of the same cereal cupboard. What we found, the results were really quite different. There was nearly 9 packs in actuality in their cupboard, and nearly more than a third of those actually were own label products. So quite a big difference. Just by using a photo, you're going to get a much more accurate read. It also had other sort of ancillary benefits as well. If you look in the bottom right hand corner there, the big pack of Cheerios, we found that quite often this was happening, was the big packs were having to be crushed into the cupboard because they didn't quite fit. Not a huge insight in itself, but really useful for packaging developers and for clients in terms of designing the bigger 600 and 900 gram packs. Okay, that brings me on to one real bugbear of mine, and if you look at the picture of Homer here, I think that's pretty much how we treat most people in quant research. Like, all they're really capable of doing is ticking a few basic boxes for us. We all know that's not true. People are an amazing information source, and we need to tap into that as best we can, and mobile gives us a really great opportunity to do that. If you can incorporate video and audio and things into your survey, you can allow everyone to be a cameraman. You'll capture their life in a much, much richer way. And these days, it's not all about having perfect quality video. We know how YouTube's changed that. People want things instantly. They want connection, that kind of human element. So that really works by using app-based research in particular. The other thing we've found as well is it just brings to life the differences between people as well. There's nothing better for seeing that than actually seeing photos of where they are at a point in time, their homes, videos of how they're interacting with your product experience, etc. So really, I think if you consider it in this respect, mobile research is absolutely bang on trend. There's 3 things that we're constantly hearing about: a blurring of qual and quant, which it clearly allows you to do; a challenge to conventional questioning. You can do much more observational and kind of ethnographic type work with mobile, and bringing consumers into the boardroom. And through the easy incorporation of video there, gives you the opportunity to do all 3 of these things. And it's back to my point really from before. It shouldn't be seen as a means of squeezing things and getting cost and time down. It's an opportunity to get much more, to make research better. And with that comes a slight cost. We have to be willing to build that in to gain the benefits that are available to us. So as researchers, it's really our job to connect people. Quite often that's consumers to a client. And we're really fortunate in this context in that a mobile phone is just such a superb way of doing that when you think about it. Not only does it remove interviewer bias, but all the features that are inherent in it allow us to connect with consumers in a wide variety of ways. The internet is obviously key to this. It allows us to get information quickly to and from them. Shouldn't underestimate the importance of texting. The bong bong of a phone is almost impossible to kind of ignore, and that makes it really great for getting time critical information. Video, audio and photo kind of go together. We've talked about the benefits there of using these to bring consumers to life, and that certainly shouldn't be underestimated and must be used. And passive data, interesting area, something that we tend to shy away from a little at MMR. But what we have found is that collecting simple things like the time at which a survey is completed, the weather conditions, gives you a different string to your bow when it comes to doing the analysis. And last but not least, really, in terms of the features available, is the fact that it's a phone. We often forget this. I mean, a recent project that we were doing for a client who launched a new product, we got the app onto a bunch of people's phones. Every time they used that new product or its main competitor, an alert was sent to our research team, who could then ring these people up and just collect a little bit more information from them, adding flavour and context to the results. So a huge number of advantages from mobile phones. It isn't perfect, and there are some certain things that you really do need to consider when you're exploring mobile surveys. The top two around being online and data charges, they can be got around with a well-designed app, which can be set up to only download and only work when they're on Wi-Fi. You can't get around the small screen limitations around that. If you want a bigger concept or you want to show your pack life size, you can't make the screen grow, and it's just a case of us as researchers being open to the limitations on this, designing things carefully and using it in the right applications. Distractions are another big area as well. This really links in with the length of survey. If you imagine you're trying to do a 20-minute survey with somebody on their phone, chances are the phone's going to ring, there's going to be a text, there's going to be an email, a Snapchat message coming in, and it really is a case of that's probably going to be more exciting to that respondent than your survey is. So if you can keep your survey short, you limit the chance of distraction. Okay, so a few quick hints and tips on making mobile surveys work for you. First problem that you often encounter is getting people to download the phone, particularly if you've recruited online. Getting from that point where they say they're going to do it to actually getting the physical thing onto their phone is a real challenge. It's made worse by the online panel companies not really being particularly interested in helping in this area. And what we've found the best way of getting around this problem is to recruit people face to face. Stand with them, get the thing onto their phone, and you engender huge amounts of commitment from them in that way. Technical compatibility, less of an issue on Android, more of a problem with Apple, who tend to have a habit of updating their operating systems when you don't expect it. You just got to be on top of that and aware of it, particularly if you have things in field at the time. Incentive structure, more of an opportunity than it is a problem. If you can structure things to encourage people to be filling things out over the course of the week or however long you've got the survey live, incentivise for content, etc., it's a really good way of getting more out of them. And again, the point that I made on Homer Simpson earlier is challenge people. You'll be really surprised by what you get. In the example here, we were asking people prior to coming to a focus group to go out, buy some cake making ingredients, make us a cake. We've got some incredible sort of examples, some real competition standard stuff there, and also real honesty from people as well. So you look at this and you think the lady here has made some good cookies. Actually, you find out she was trying to make donuts. Just that kind of honesty, and you get that on the forum, and you're getting connection between people, and it just changes the dynamic of things. Keep your survey short. I've talked about this before. Take out all those questions that are nice to haves that cover your butts. You've got to keep it short and snappy. And really use the alerts and chase up things that are built into most good apps. It's a great opportunity to encourage people to respond when you want them, so make the most of that. And last but definitely not least, the whole interface thing is just so important now. We don't accept clunky things on our phones. The types of software we're using at the moment are very linear, they're very rapid, and we need to replicate that as best we can in surveys. If you must include grid questions, make sure there's no scrolling involved. Make it as easy as possible for people. And also make the most out of the touchscreen interface that we've got. It allows you to ask questions in different ways and to engage with the consumer in different ways. So just make sure that you are thinking about that when you're designing the surveys. So this brings us on to what's hopefully the most interesting part, the actual applications of mobile. Now we're quite reasonably tight at MMR in that most of our work is around understanding food and drink categories and product performance within that, but there really are a whole host of applications that you can do out there. I'm just going to touch on a few really simple ones today. The point of the image here with Usain Bolt kind of winning is mainly around doing this research in areas where it's going to give you that little bit extra. If you just use it as a replication of what's already gone on, you'll get to the situations where you'll get the client question, yeah, okay, it was good, but I'm not sure it gave me anything extra. Where we try to concentrate on is those situations where, getting in the moment brings the consumer to life more, is more accurate, connects you much more with the consumer, etc. And it's those applications that I think we should be really concentrating on. I'll split this little section into three. And the first point I really wanted to make is around the importance of pictures in terms of bringing people to life. Apps make this so easy to do, pictures, video, etc., that we really should take advantage of this. There's probably no better example. The clip I'm about to show is a really good example of video bringing things to life. We were doing a study for a client and they were looking to understand the introduction of a new product onto their market. As part of a main quant test, we got a few of the respondents to record a quick video at the end with some of their key observations. The real beauty of this one is one of the ladies who was doing the test decided she'd get her 10-year-old kid to kind of sum things up for us, which turned out to be really, really powerful, as you'll see.
I like the instant one best as well, because I like the kind of carton it's in, and it looks easy to open rather than the other one that doesn't look as easy.
Okay.
It looks nice.
Yeah.
You can see what's actually inside it.
So there you go, you can see what's inside it, it looks nice and it's easy to open. There were 3 things that we found, to be fair, from the quant, but just having that in one single video just really helped to nail down the recommendations and the insights and to bring the consumer to life for the client. So in this section we're back to my favourite point around capturing things as they happen, so you shift from recall to behaviour. So in the first example of this, we were working with a client who developed a new sleeping aid and they wanted to understand how effective that was. So what we did here was we got a group of consumers who were testing the product to download the app. As they wake up in the morning, the first thing that's there on their lock screen on their phone is a prompt to go and fill out the survey. So straight away at the earliest opportunity you capture how well they sleep, how they felt at the time, any issues, etc. Just the ideal way of getting that information before anything else interferes during the course of the day. Simple example again, we wanted to know how effective a deodorant was over the course of a day. Did this via text message surveys, so every 3 or 4 hours, bong bong, text message arrives, how is it doing, quick rating out of 10, and a little bit of text kind of commentary with some people to bring some flavour into that. And then the third example was a really interesting one. We've been working with a client who was trying to understand out-of-home breakfast, and the feeling from having done previous qual and quant research is this was always a rush, it was always a chaotic kind of moment. We got a large number of people to download the app onto their phone, start to collect information every time they had breakfast out of home. And what we actually found when we analysed that through our mindsets approach was that more than 2/3 of the situations were actually quite positive. They weren't necessarily in a rush. They were taking 10 minutes out when they got to work, having a chat with their colleagues. And that just totally changed the context for how you design products and how you target consumers in this kind of out-of-home occasion. You move from it always being a stressful occasion to actually, you can play pleasure and things in a slightly different way there. In this next example, on the back of a fairly standard product test, we asked consumers just to give us a few kind of observations and commentary. And as you'll see from the next video, what this really can help to do is pick up things that you wouldn't otherwise think to include in a survey questionnaire.
这样四路开的，开完只能用剪刀了。这样肯定会接触到里面的产品，但是没办法，也只能这样了。哇，口子好锋利啊，把我的手差点划伤了。
So in that case, it wasn't just the fact that he had to poke his finger in and was worried about cutting it. He was actually worried that he might be contaminating the product through what he had to do. A really important issue in China and something that we probably wouldn't have picked up if we hadn't included the videos. And this is an area I actually feel really strongly about. It's the ability of mobile to be used to collect little chunks of information, piece lots of these together to collect a more complete picture of a usage occasion or a market. We've all done the big U&A, usage and attitude surveys, 60, 70 minute surveys, where you're tending to ask questions like, on the third last occasion you were in a supermarket buying a snack, how did you feel and what did you choose? Very, very difficult in reality for people to answer. What we found is by getting apps onto people's phones, every time they experience a situation or a buying area or trying a product of a certain type, you get them to fill out a really short survey. You get much more accurate information. You can use video and images and things to bring that to life. It just totally changes the way you can look at usage and attitude type research. And what we see here are just some examples of bite-sized data collection. On the right hand side you've got the same guy, same occasion, having his breakfast, 3 very different choices on 3 very different days. And on the left hand side you've actually got the same person in the same location, so he's in the same coffee shop, Same occasion again, having his breakfast out of home. Again, 3 very different product choices. And what we've found as we've done more and more of this kind of bite-sized chunk data collection is that it isn't necessarily the occasion that drives people's choices. It isn't even the individual themselves. On the same occasion, they differ in terms of what they do. And even need states isn't always the primary driver. You know, sometimes fulfilling the same need state, they have a different product. And what we found when we started piecing all this information together was it was a combination of all of these things. And that led us to a different approach in the development of our mindsets technique, which is driven purely by mobile data, really, and it's changing the way that we're looking at usage and attitude and MPD kind of ideation type work with our clients. And I won't go into this one in any detail, but it was another mindsets project that we did to look at snacking in China. The really interesting thing in here is instead of using a classic app or a mobile survey, we used WeChat, which for those of you that don't know is kind of a cross between WhatsApp and Instagram and Facebook that millions of people in China and Asia are using at the moment. What's really great about this is it has quite a lot of functionality built into it, so we were able to do the survey within the platform itself. We found there were some really good advantages in this. Not only did it mean people didn't have to download things, but they were operating in an environment they were very comfortable with, so they were very forthcoming and willing to interact with us in different ways. So the survey worked particularly well. There's a paper available, and there's been a couple of speeches done at SMR on this. So if anybody's interested in learning a little bit more, if they just contact me, I can point you in the right direction of our MD out in Asia, or Naveen, who both worked on the study. And I guess my main point here is that there are just hundreds of possible applications. We'll just look at a couple more. In this example here, we got people to essentially go out and be mystery shoppers for us. So they had the app with them, they went into supermarkets to explore the pharmacies, took us pictures of the fixture, let us know what worked well, what didn't work well. At the end, gave us a quick video on how the interaction with the staff had been, etc. So just loads of applications you can go down in that route. And just a much simpler one, just the physical use of technology and to record data in different ways. So in this example, we were looking at people's washing habits in some really poor areas of Kenya and India. Just the interviewer having a tablet with them, it enabled them to take loads of photos, which really brought this to life for us and our client. But the technology itself became a talking point, and what they were finding was that people wanted to come and they wanted to explore, and they were getting much richer sort of life stories and histories by having a bit of technology available. It was just a nice little ancillary benefit in that instance. So just to wrap up, really, I hope, having sat through this presentation, it's whet your appetite to some of the benefits and some of the opportunities that are available out there. The final point I wanted to make is kind of my combined superhero one. The technology exists. It's already there. Most people have got it on their phone. It's down to your creativity, the way that you use it, the way that you make your projects work, and finding those applications where capturing data in the moment is going to bring it to life. If you can bring those two things together, it's hugely powerful, and I really would urge everybody to get out there and maximise the benefits that mobile research can offer.